Good morning. This is Curtis Campbell with marketing at Office Pro Inc. Super excited you've joined us this morning. Joined here by a couple of good friends of mine, Lance Lingerfelt and Paul Swider. We are obviously excited to be talking about all things Copilot as well as Azure AI, and take a look at how it's applicable into certain industries, especially healthcare. And so naturally, we're very excited for this session, especially with just the overall advent of AI and how it's making everyone's lives simpler, hopefully not more complex. But anyways, we're excited. As you may know, Office Pro is a Microsoft Gold Learning partner focused on delivering end user training and adoption services to virtually any company in the country. We've been in business for about 40 years, and obviously would love to help if you have any questions regarding AI, Copilot, or any other software or Microsoft applications. So without further ado, again, turning it over to my friends Lance and Paul. Take it away, guys.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to Office Hours with Lance Lingerfelt. We are going to do the AI Copilot Showcase today. Anyway, we'll have a little question and answer after the end if we do our presentations, and hope you enjoy it. Okay, so today is the Copilot and AI Showcase. I am Lance Lingerfelt. I have been a trainer and consultant for over 20 years. I've worked for Microsoft in different capacities over the years. I do AI exchange. Anyway, I have extensive PowerShell scripting experience. I have a blog that I do. I'm also an evangelist. I play saxophone. I run a little company. I also work with Paul here to promote AI and the products that we're doing. My blog and my LinkedIn profile down there. You also have links at the end for that as well. All right, we're going to talk about Copilot real quick here. Copilot, basic Copilot empowers every single user in your organization to achieve more. That's every type of user. From the streamlining the process of checking and answering your emails for your sellers to helping your service team help customers resolve issues more quickly. Also, it creates opportunities to empower your developers to focus on fulfilling their work through faster coding processes and upskilling your security operations team to resolve those threats in minutes versus hours. Unlocking the ability to complete tasks at a 37% quicker rate for all of your knowledge workers and helping your organization accelerate the time to value by accelerating the time it takes to create complete workflows. So you can see here in the slide, there's use cases for all of these. We're going to discuss some of these in different healthcare industry situations coming up. So our next slide here. Basically, Copilot for M365 is just a better way of doing the same things. It's basically a layer on top of the M365 stack that is already there. It's a new way of working. For all the value that Copilot and M365 brings to individuals, their organizations, the architecture itself is fundamentally simple. It is an orchestrator of the large language model, which I'll talk about here in a minute, built on top of the existing Microsoft 365 solution. And all of this takes place within the compliance boundary that is already in place in your organization. And you'll probably start hearing a lot more about compliance and security as AI grows, because there's a lot to do with that in order to work properly. Copilot combines the power of cutting-edge large language models with your specific content in the Microsoft Graph and the Microsoft Substrate. Your documents, your email, your calendars, your chats, your meetings, contacts, everything that you have in there. Combines all that together to deliver accurate, relevant, and contextual responses that you need to make your day work better. It'll work alongside you and is available in all the M365 apps. You can also have custom Copilot plugins and apps, which we will show you here in a minute. It can be basically used across the whole entire org as you need it. Again, let me speak about large language models real quick. They represent a class of artificial intelligence models that specialize in the understanding and generating of human-like text. The large in LLM signifies both size of the models and the terms of the number of parameters they encompass. and the vast volume of data for which they are trained on. LLMs, including models like ChatGPT, are a type of generative AI. Instead of merely predicting, classifying, generative AI, like LLMs, can produce entirely new content. When applied to text, LLMs can generate contextually relevant and syntactically correct responses based on the provided prompts. In the context of Copilot, LLMs are the engine that drives Copilot for M365's capabilities. The Azure OpenAI service, which is what we're going to speak of as well, privately hosts these models, which Copilot and M365 use to understand the inputs and generate the responses. Through the careful application of these models, Copilot for M365 can help you navigate your work more efficiently while ensuring privacy and data integrity. I will share some links in the video where you can find out more information about this LLMs and this other information. Again, we're talking about the Microsoft Graph. Now, the Microsoft Graph is basically the connective tissue that binds all of your M365 services and data together. And it's built on the Microsoft substrate, which is another session that I'll go into later, another time. But basically, the graph lies on top of that, which Copilot and your apps lie on top of that. So basically, Copilot for M365 uses the graph to synthesize and search content across all your sources in your tenant, and also your files, PowerPoint, Word, Excel, in Teams, SharePoint, your notes in your OneNote, your messages in Outlook, your conversations, and everything that you have in your footprint in Microsoft 365 is used by Microsoft Graph to find it. It's all indexed and properly searched. So basically, that's what Copilot uses to get around and basically get the data it needs to be able to help you better. And here's a little brief overlook of the Copilot architecture. Basically, you put in your prompt, and we'll talk about prompting as well, because prompting is important to making sure you get the answer that you want. You got to ask the right questions. So basically, you'll prompt the Copilot. Copilot will go to the graph or the web or wherever you're looking to ground that data. When we say grounding data, we're talking about what we're using as the foundation of the data that we're searching on. So basically, you ground a web page, you're searching the data on that web page. Basically, you ground a database, you ground all your Word documents, you ground your Outlook messages. That's basically the base of what you're using to do your searches in Copilot. And then it'll send that modified data if it can't find it there. If you want to look on the web, it can actually get additional information from the large language model you're using. It will receive the LLM response, which is the answer that the LLM gives, and then Copilot, you use the graph to make sure that you're in compliance and you have the permissions available to get the answer and then send it to you. Basically, what we say is if you have access to it, Copilot has access to it. So if you don't, then it doesn't. It's going to use the same permission stack that you have set. If there's a way you program it differently, you can make it work, but that has to be programmatically done. Okay, and because we're using the safety security of Purview and the data privacy security, it's called Microsoft Responsible AI. Basically, these 6 principles, which I won't go into too much detail right now, but you can look this up. I'll have a link for you guys that you can look at to do this, to look up these particular AI principles. It's fairness, reliability, safety, privacy, security, inclusiveness, transparency, and accountability. And if you want to really learn the basics of AI, you're going to have to know these 6 principles and what they're used for. But just know that your data is protected. Your data is not used to train the OpenAI foundation models without your permission. and your data is protected by all your permissions that are already set. So if your environment is set to allow you to have access where you shouldn't, then it's possible that you could have some issues there. So we want to not only train people how to use AI, but how to be good stewards of their data and make sure it's, and not just the IT department, but the users as well, to make sure that they are all using good practices to protect their own data. Here are some frequently asked questions. Read over these. I'll have this slide available after the presentation. But basically, again, Copilot is on top of what you already have in the Microsoft 365 stack. So any safeguards, any access to data, anything that's stored, any things like the intellectual property is going to be looked at. The large language model is able to decipher things like that, as well as Copilot is able to use the purview that is set in the Microsoft tenant to make sure that your data is shared and your data is set probably to be permissioned. You can actually tell it to only call on certain things, and if you need very programmatically as well, we'll show that in our demo coming up. But anyway, save your questions for the end if there are any of those, and we'll just go ahead and continue here.
Good.
And this is where, if you want to get started, if you have a Copilot license or if you have access to Copilot, I would go to the Copilot Lab. The Copilot Lab helps users get started with the art of prompting and helps organizations with onboarding and adoption, providing a single experience that meets the Copilot users where they are in their journey. Basic Copilot Lab isn't just prompts, it's a library of comprehensive learning resources that helps everyone begin their Copilot journey with confidence and take advantage of the Copilot in their daily work. It'll basically give you different ways to generate ideas, learn to prompt correctly, learn to use it in their apps, learn to use it on the net, and it's a good place to go. And it's aka.ms/Copilot Lab. It is a very neat little tool. They just came out with it not too long ago, and it's really helping with that process. So. All right. At this time, Paul, if you want to go ahead and share your screen, take over. We're going to talk about some custom AI interfaces, Copilots, and what we're working on here at Real Activity.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks, Lance. So I'm assuming everybody can hear me okay, and you can see my screen this time?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. So yeah, I thought I'd pick it up with, I think so. First of all, most of the stuff I'm going to walk through right now is going to be more demo-based type stuff, if you will. And hold on, I just lost my browser. This is embarrassing. I just had everything ready to go. Lots to show, lots of windows that are open. Yeah, okay, so what I wanted to do is, because Lance had mentioned up front that one of the themes for today is healthcare, and that was mentioned during our introduction as well, right? And so part of the reason why that is so is because we spend a lot of time in the healthcare space, and as a matter of fact, that's sort of how this small group got together to do the presentation today, was through a healthcare conference. And so I thought what I would do is take this minute to just give you some resources that will help with understanding use cases and also some prompting stuff on the healthcare side, and at the same time, it can just serve as an introduction to who I am. So just a long, quick story about me is I got started in Microsoft technology about 30 years ago. I've helped Microsoft get multiple platforms out to the world. The first one was .NET 1.0. That was like the first part of my career was helping the world get on the .NET platform. And then for 10 years after that, it was SharePoint. And then for a little while after that, it was Azure and blockchain and then all of that sort of, it always did a lot with data in the background. I started with SQL Server in 1996 when Microsoft bought it from Sybase, or I think it was 92. And so it's just a natural evolution to jump into this AI stuff, especially because I was actually at a point in my career where I was getting a little bored and thinking about semi-retiring. And quite frankly, generative AI got me so excited. And enable passion again about building stuff that it's actually brought me back full time into work and building product. So we like to say our mission is simple: it's to save babies and improve global health outcomes. And so the reason why I feel like I'm here and able to talk about this intelligently is about 14 months ago when Microsoft first introduced OpenAI, I was actually at HIMSS, one of the largest healthcare conferences in the world. And right away, I saw the opportunity. And what we did is we made a decision then we learned from something we learned from the early 90s about the PC. And I say the early 90s, even though the PC was around long before that, because what a lot of people don't understand is that hospitals and doctors were actually one of the very last people to adopt PC technology. And they had the same concerns and used the same arguments back then that they use with AI today. I heard even some of the same phrases, meaning, for example, I will never put a PC in the same room as a patient, or I would never use AI to diagnose a patient. And so we'd been through that before. And so we made a decision to not pause for debate because we were in healthcare. And we made a decision to do the same thing we did in the 90s, and that was to focus on the operations and administration side first. And it was also an easy decision to make because we had about 10 years worth of work that we had done with Dartmouth Health that we were itching to turn into a product. And so it was good timing. So long story short, we did that. We put the Microsoft Copilot. I'll show you a little bit about this later, using something called semantic kernel. And our team over the last year has built what we call the physician experience Copilot. And so you can think of this as a Copilot that essentially helps manage the administration side of hospitals, hospital systems, and provider groups. The reason why I pulled this up, though, is Lance ended by talking about prompting. And again, we're on the topic of healthcare. And so one of the things I'd like to point out is we do have this guide. I wrote this past year with a small team. And essentially, it's, as you can see, Microsoft Copilot Prompt Engineering for Healthcare Executives. And it's up on Amazon right now. You can get it as a Kindle. But for folks in this meetup, if you ping me after the meetup, we're happy to share a digital copy with the folks that made it here to the meeting. And I suggest that because I just think it will build on the generic prompt stuff, right? Like that we're starting to see now coming out from Microsoft. And now there are a lot of us that want to take this to the next level, right? Okay, we've been doing this for a year now. We understand Copilot and blah, 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 now let's dig in and do the meaningful stuff, right? And so this is what this book is an attempt to do. And so we're very proud of this. We've had a ton of success with this. And actually, one of the really cool things about this is the guide includes over 250 prompts for executives. And we've been working with healthcare leadership on these over the past 12 months. But even more cool is we actually use them to fine tune our own Copilot. And so we'll talk about that a little bit more as we talk about customizing Copilots. So the second thing I want to share with you, I'll put this link in the chat after the meeting. This link is already in the chat, so you should be able to click on this now. Just if you look at it afterwards, though, you should pay attention to me for right now. I have a lot more stuff to share. But anyway, this is super cool. We're really happy to promote this. This is a great colleague, friend, Michael Gennady, real fun guy to follow on Twitter too. He's a forger and loves to make homemade knives and forge anything he can pound steel with. But anyway, so Michael helps Microsoft get the word about healthcare and healthcare services out to hospitals, hospital systems, et cetera. And, he's basically community stuff, right? So he's responsible for getting the word out through community webinars, et cetera. And what they did is they put together a series a starter series, and if you drill into it, you'll see that they cover use cases for clinical managers, they cover it for finance, they cover it for all the different various hospitals, departments, if you well, I should say roles. I think roles might be the better way to think about it. Healthcare roles. So you have your finance roles and administration, your HR roles. You have the role of the provider, the chief, the executives that run the hospital, for example. And so super cool stuff. I highly recommend this. This is brand new. It was just published in March 18th. And there's a series of about 6 or 7 videos that dive into real use cases. Like what are some real things that you can get started with in this thing. And then, so with that, then what I thought I would do is, so I wanted to start there because, again, the way Lance teed this up was, we're going to talk about some stuff as it relates to healthcare and Copilot. And then he ended talking about prompt engineering. So I wanted to go here right away first. But now that we've done that, I would like to, just in case there are new people watching that haven't had a chance to use Copilot yet, I'm just going to do a couple quick things just to give you a sense of what we're talking about here. And so not anything fancy at all, too, by the way, just sort of simple stuff that you might imagine would be available. As a matter of fact, it's really simple right now. I think one of the things we're most excited about is to see how Microsoft continues to build this out and how it matures into their products, et cetera. Because right now, just for every company, generative AI is early. So even if you're Microsoft and you're $1 trillion company and you have 200,000 engineers around the world, they all only have less than 2 years experience with generative AI. So we're sort of all at the same place right now, trying to figure out how to take this technology and build it into our product. And as a matter of fact, I would submit that's the best way to think about Copilot. Like if you're trying to get the high level overview, or for that matter, even if you're a developer and thinking about the architecture, what I would point out is that Microsoft basically had a business problem 12, 16 months, 18 months ago, right? They found this amazing new technology, generative AI, that they could see clearly was going to be useful to them because it could create content. And at that time, I don't think there was any business in the world that was more in the content creation business than Microsoft was, right? Or is still, right? With Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, I mean, that's all they do is sell products that people use to create content all day long. And then, the rest of the story, we put it in SharePoint and Teams, and we collaborate on it, and we search on it. And so they're looking at this new technology, generative AI, and they're like, and just like every other software company, they start to think, oh my gosh, this is going to change us, our apps and everything. How are we going to do this, blah, blah. And so long story short, that's how Copilot was born. So what Microsoft decided is, okay, we got to take this, we got to push it into our apps, and we got to empower our users even more. How are we going to do that? They come up with this idea of a Copilot. And essentially, they define a Copilot as and it is sort of a key distinction because there's another topic getting really popular right now called agents. And the idea is that the difference between an agent and a Copilot is that a Copilot actually works with the user side by side. So like now I'm in PowerPoint, it's working with me to create the PowerPoint slides. The AI is going to create the PowerPoint presentation, et cetera. An agent is a little bit different in that it runs in the background and there is no user interface, right? So that's a bit different of a concept, but still same technology. As a matter of fact, I can give you an example of that. But what I did is actually what's really cool is we have these 3 slides to use. I got these 3 slides because I used the AI. So the first thing I did is I went out to Copilot and I said, hey, can you give me a quick comparison between plugins, agents, and actions in Copilot Studio? And it did a great job. This is basically what it spit back, So I read it. I was like, okay, yeah, this is good. And then what I did is I said, okay, let's take this stuff now. And I say, okay, here you go. Can you create some slides based on that stuff now? And I did, and here are the 3 slides. So this was all, I didn't type a word of this. This was all Copilot. So you're looking at Copilot here on the right, embedded into PowerPoint. And so, again, I'm happy to do this again, actually, just because I want to show you what I mean by agent and Copilot. So I'm using the Copilot. I'm just going to use the same exact prompt again. And you'll see down here, it says, I'm working on a response for you, looking things over. See, it's doing some research. It's saying, okay, how can I put these into a slide? It's looking at the large language model. Sometimes you might see it calling out to Bing. It's telling me it's still working on it. And then finally, it's going to get to a point, if we're lucky, where it will say, oh, okay, taking the next step. And it will start to actually push whatever content it comes up with into PowerPoint. See down here on the, I don't know if you saw that, but right here in the status bar of PowerPoint, there was a quick status that flashed up and it said, hey, creating these, slides for you in PowerPoint now. And the reason why I went out of my way to, wow, the second three it created were much nicer. You see these three? I like them much better than the first three. So what's interesting is this really, you have to notice what's going on here. So when I use the term agent, so I'm using Copilot here, but behind the scenes, you've got this agent-like technology that's going behind the scenes and is figuring out, okay, how do I, step by step, how do I do these PowerPoint slides? Well, first, I need to figure out what the user's intent is. Then I need to maybe go do some research to figure out what content to put in the PowerPoint slides. And it's actually coming up with a plan. And then finally, when it has all that done, it says, well, then I need to call off to the PowerPoint API because I need to create 3 slides and I need to put content on it. And so that's the concept of the agent piece sort of in the background, if you will. So agent and Copilot, and you've heard me use the word plugins, which I'll talk about more in a minute. All those things can work together to optimize and streamline our workflows or whatever it is that we're trying to do. And so that's a great example of what this looks like in PowerPoint. And then of course it's in all the apps, right? So I just wanted to show you some quick demos. If I do a new email, I can create a draft. I don't know why the Copilot thing just went away, but if you look at this email, you can see I've already clicked on Summary by Copilot, and it's telling me it's just summarizing this really simple email. But this, you can see where this might be really powerful in a huge email thread, right? That's something interesting as well. And so that's sort of, a quick, let me get back here, overview, if you will, of just sort of the Copilot in action and what it looks like, etc. And so just to give you a review of where we are now, because I already covered a ton of content. I told you about our prompt guide to help with use cases and prompt engineering. I gave you the links to Microsoft to go through the starter series and look at use cases and shared all these with you. And then I went out and I showed you how Copilot can be used for real simple tasks, like helping to create some PowerPoint slides or just summarizing an email, just basic stuff that you're doing in Microsoft 365. The other thing that you should that you should realize is that although, of course, just like any other platform, or parts of Microsoft 365, because of connectors and automation, we can extend this stuff out to other systems. But the reality is that everything we're talking about right now is really, it's encapsulated in your tenant, in your Microsoft 365 environment, meaning the Microsoft 365 Copilot is very well named, and meaning that's exactly what it is. Its boundaries are Microsoft 365. So the minute we want to start to break out of those boundaries, then we have to start looking at customizations. And that's where the power of Copilot Studio comes into play, and also using code to build your own Copilot. As a matter of fact, that's the last demo we'll show, is how we built our Copilot that we use on the administration side. So this is what you're looking at now, is the Copilot Studio. I think
yeah, if you have a Copilot license for your organization, you do have access to Copilot Studio by default.
Yeah.
So anybody that has a Copilot license, you could go in, and there's a whole session we could do on just Copilot Studio. We're going to show you a couple things here, though.
Yeah, that's great, and thank you, Lance. And I think the first obvious place to just understand is we have the Microsoft Learn and the documentation site. We'll actually walk through some of this, but first we'll just get started with just a quick little demo of what Copilot Studio is and the concept here. I think the first thing I would start is letting you know that it's definitely, I feel like Copilot Studio, from what I've seen so far, it's a product that's in transition, right? And so what I mean by that is that essentially what you're looking at here is the previous Power Automate, whatever it was, PVA or something. What was it called, Lance, before Studio?
Power Automate Flows, I think, or Power
Automate. Yeah, it's basically a bot generator. Like,
yeah.
if we were to be honest about it, like, it was a bot generator. And the reason why everybody was excited about it is you could connect to cognitive services. So you could do some cool stuff like, oh, look, there's a tool on the shop floor. If it looks like a saw, maybe I should send an email to somebody to go pick the saw up, right? It was like that type of stuff. But candidly, when we compare it to today's technology, it doesn't look nearly as sophisticated. Like, obviously, large language models and OpenAI completely changed how bots work, right? But I understand why Microsoft did this, because they were in a position where they had to figure out, okay, how do we infuse this technology into every one of our products? And they needed something like Copilot Studio. It made sense that you would start with what they already had in the virtual agents. That's what it was called, Power Virtual Agents.
Virtual agents, yes, that's it.
Yeah, and so it made sense that they would take that product and rename it, rebrand it, and start there as the base point. But the reason why I'm letting you know that is because you'll notice right up front in the documentation, they'll even tell you, they'll say Power Virtual Agents capabilities and features are now part of Copilot Studio. That's one way to say it. Another way to say it is that they migrated. I think a better way to say it is they morphed Copilot Studio PVA into Copilot Studio. So anyway, they're telling you that in the documentation, you still may see the term Power Virtual Agents, right? So see, it's a little messy and it's still new is what I'm trying to, it's still very valuable. Like, I encourage you 100% to dive in now. You don't want to wait, but at the same time, just know what you're getting into. Like, this is not a fully baked, done thing. Actually, that's what's sort of exciting about it, is we can figure that stuff out over the next, years. We've already started. We've been doing it the last year. By the way, this has come a long way in the last 12 months. So, and also it's important to know that, because if you start doing some research on the internet too, you might see the two terms or product names used interchangeably. And the other thing that I should tell you is that if you're interested in Copilot and generative AI, personally, for me, that's what I focus on. I'm not necessarily interested in the old bot builder and and connecting to the old traditional black box cognitive services models, right? I find that very useful, but that's just not how I spend a lot of my time. I'm mostly interested more in the Copilot side now and the generative AI, and so that's where I tend to spend my time here in the Copilot Studio. And so this is, I don't know why this is here. I noticed this too. This is dated. It says April 10th, but that was last month. So again, it's a newer experience. So working some stuff out. But so you get in here, and then what you can do is you can, obviously the first thing you can play around with is creating a custom Copilot. And so you go ahead and you give it a name, and then you select English, and then you can start off by giving it a website that it will use to basically do a quick crawl and create a quick little index so that data is available in your Copilot. And then you click create, and it'll create a Copilot. And so just for fun to do a little demo here today, I created a quick little sailing Copilot. And so if you click on the Copilot, so again, we went from this screen. This is where all your Copilots are listed. And what I'll do is just go ahead and click on the sailing Copilot. And I really like where they're going with this user experience. I like this a lot. This is all new stuff. This is new to this, new addition to what's now Copilot Studio. And you can see this is where, if we provided a website when we created the Copilot, then it will automatically be populated here. And also, by the way, excuse me, I'm recovering from a little bit of a cold. One of the important things to do when you're using this technique, so you may have heard the term RAG, retrieval augmented generation, and retrieval augmented generation. And so essentially what that means is you're grounding your Copilot experience, or you're connecting it to data is another way to think about it, so that it answers in the context of that data that it knows about. And so that's called grounding or RAG. And that's essentially what we're doing here. But one of the tricky things when you do that is you have to come up with a way to keep your RAG index is updated, your vector index is updated. so that they're always returning relevant content to the Copilot. And that's what this is here. I can update the generative answer. So this will essentially go and it will, go through the site and update the index, etc. And then we can add files as well. I think I did that yesterday. I think I have a file in here, but I'm not sure. But if not, so you just add files, browse, and same thing. What it will do is it will parse through those files and it will create a little index, and that index will become part of the Copilot.
Now, Paul, is this like you have to go here to use it, or is it usable like if it was in Teams? Could I just type in a Copilot or go to regular Copilot and it would use this plugin? Or
yeah, 100%. So what will happen is first you need to go ahead and publish it. And so you see when you publish, you can even this is really slick here. They give you some optimization options depending on the channel that you're configuring it for, right? And so you can see where this is going. So they've already got this is not a new concept. So we had this concept of channels before generative AI. A lot of bot infrastructure frameworks would use this concept of pushing your bot out to channels, right? You may have heard the term like multi-channel marketing, multi-channel, what is it called? Oh gosh, excuse me right now. Like, it's very popular when you're setting up a call center, for example, because you want data. Let's say you're a hospital. You have requests coming in from the website, from the patient portal, from the call center, and those are all considered channels, and you want to optimize for those channels. So just like if I'm creating a Copilot to help with healthcare administration, let's say if I'm doing that for a hospital, if the hospital has a social presence across, say, LinkedIn, different things. Actually, I don't see LinkedIn here yet, so maybe I should be careful. But then what I can do is go ahead and I may even create different Copilots and optimize that, or different. I guess you would do different publishings and then optimize for the different channels. Don't hold me to that. You might have to create a new Copilot. You can go. Y'all can go double check that afterwards.
Well, yeah, even if it is that way now, it might change in a couple months. So it's like you said, it's ever evolving technology. So they're good. They're good at doing that.
It's brand new, and it's sort of funny because we joke and we hear our friends joke too, and they're like, oh, this is like, it's, it doesn't work all the time and it's broke and this and that. And like, I would just throw it back and say, well, that's sort of good, right? Because like realistically, as technologists, I mean, we could just spend the next years continuing to work with Teams and SharePoint and all that. But I feel like those products are starting to work pretty good. Like they're pretty boring now from a computer science perspective. Like I don't want to fix stuff and build stuff and make new stuff. You know what I mean? As a software engineer. And so I like stuff like this. That's, they're giving me a bunch of tools and they're like, okay, this is what you get. We're all excited about it. The whole world, we're going to keep making it better and better. But for now, this is what it is. Let's go and see. I actually think that's a better.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool with the optimizing your Copilot, because I use LinkedIn extensively, and I wanted to make a Copilot to search all posts based on a certain hashtag in LinkedIn. Yeah. So, if I'm multiple platforms, I guess I could optimize it for like Facebook, Instagram, and then Twitter and X, and then you could optimize, say, find me posts relevant to the hashtag AI 900, and then take out anything that's related to AZ 900, or just keep it to AI, artificial intelligence, and then build a marketing campaign based on that. That's kind of one of the Copilots I did that try to do different examples. So you could take your healthcare data from different channels, different sources, and look on your tagging. If you tag your data, you can tag it and then search on that, those tags, pull that data into one thing, and then say, I want to do a follow-up campaign with all my patients that we're seeing through these days. And it'll pull not just from one source, from all sources, and make sure you get pretty much everybody, and take out any duplicates, so it's just really neat. So you can basically, with these Copilots, you can optimize your workload. Optimize your workload for your day-to-day stuff. And once you do publish it, it'll be part of the graph that it looks when you actually do a search. So it'll be part of that as well, which is really neat. So sorry, go ahead, keep going.
No, it's a great point. And I tell people this too. Like I remember it took me a little longer to catch on to the graph, but I saw right away, like I think it was about 18 months ago. Realistically, it probably took me a couple months. Like I remember when OpenAI was very announced on the inside, at Microsoft, etc. And then, but right away, I had no doubt Microsoft would make $1 trillion or more on it just because of Active Directory. At the time, It hadn't even been renamed Entra ID because they had just released generative AI and this whole new concept of this type of chat. And the next obvious question was, okay, how do you connect it to and secure it with corporate data? And in my opinion, Microsoft, frankly, that's been their strongest point for a long time, is that they have the directory in the cloud so they can secure everything. What's the first thing everybody does during an Active? There's a reason why the very first thing you do when you migrate to the cloud is you move your Active Directory first thing, right? It's exactly. So cornerstone. And so, but then it took me a little while longer. It wasn't until 6 months later that I realized the graph too, how powerful that would be, right? So I'm talking about the Microsoft 365 graph that, as folks know, is basically, an API to all of your data in Microsoft 365, literally pretty much all of your data minus some, corporate actual, database stuff, but like data on your people, your documents, etc. And so you're right, Lance. So one of the interesting approaches that they do in Microsoft 365, basically what happens is when you buy Copilot, when you pay for the licenses, what they do is they start creating a vector index of your Microsoft 365 graph. And they put that into, and I'm assuming Azure AI Search, which is the same thing that we use, but that I don't know for sure. But so that's, really, that's the core of what you're paying for. When you buy Copilot, you're paying for that. The Copilot's obviously nice, but realistically, ChatGPT is nice too, right? Yeah. Like the power of Microsoft 365 Copilot is you can secure it and you can connect it to data
and
via
exactly.
the graph.
Well, that's the biggest thing that sold me on buying the Copilot license, which is $360 a year, is the Copilot Studio. Being able to customize it and publish it to your backbone so that you can do your things that you need to do. So if you go to certain apps or you go to certain websites all the time to find data or find information, you can build your Copilot to index all that data, and that is where you don't even have to go to the website anymore. You just ask Copilot, I need this stuff, or what's the answer to this, and it'll pull that data. And as long as you keep it updated, and I'm sure they're going to do it where they'll probably get an automated task where you can tell it to update automatically when the web page updates or whatnot. So that's one of the cool things about it. So that's what made me buy it. Being able to have Copilot Studio to be able to customize it.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I tell people jokingly, I say not jokingly, but but you do have to think about it for a minute. And I tell people, I think the best two features of Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, any of the Copilots, Microsoft Copilots, are, well, I should say maybe stick to the best features are Entra ID and Microsoft Graph, which, because they're not even features of Copilot, right? But realistically, without that, who would be using this?
Right, exactly.
Right? Like, I mean, realistically, ChatGPT is awesome, man. I still use it most of the time. And you know what I mean? When it's not private data, like when I'm trying to do creative stuff. As a matter of fact, I tell people, the last presentation I did, I used 6 different AIs, literally. I used Perplexity to do research. I used Gemini Pro to help with and here's the funny thing, I use Gemini Pro to create the prompts to give to DALL-E to create the images for my PowerPoint slides. And then I use Gemini Pro to create my outline, and then I use Copilot 365 to create the PowerPoint slides. And then finally, I use Grammarly, because a lot of people forget Grammarly is AI too. And I use Grammarly to do the fine polish. So there's literally 6 different AIs to get my PowerPoint presentation done.
There is. But again, it probably doing that was a lot faster than trying to build it and think through it yourself. So,
and to your point, though, that goes away with Microsoft 365 Copilot, right? That's what's so beautiful about the 365 Copilot is I'm a little bit crazy with technology, whatever, but the reality is most people are not going to want to use 6 AIs, right? They're just going to want to get their work done as quickly as they can.
We do have some
And-
power users too, though. We do have some power users. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the whole thing. I think as it evolves more, we're going to have those different models coming together, and people are going to be able to have access to them and plug into them to do the different tasks. So, even if you have, like you said, we build a custom Copilot. If you have an API that goes to the different backends, the different language models, or in AI Studio where you could go on different LLMs, you can do different training models that have had from different sources, and then you can customize your Copilot to use all those properly. And then when you say build the PowerPoint, it's going to go through and find out what's the best one to do for the particular thing. For the research piece,
Right.
Use this and you can make it by keywords, trigger it. It's going to be that's where it's going. That's where it's headed. It's going to be like, and next thing we know, we're going to be, I'm going to have Girl Grey tea replicated on my food replicator. So, I mean, tea Earl Grey, so, let's go to talk more about custom copilots, like we were saying. So
Yeah, that's what because I'm just looking at the time now. We're down to about 10 minutes. So I did want to save just a couple minutes to talk about the next step of this. And so we've actually covered a lot in such a short conversation, if you think about it, because we started with, what are the basics of Copilot, the prompt engineering and use cases in healthcare. And then we actually showed you what the Copilot looked like when it's not customized, just doing some basic tasks in email and PowerPoint. And then the next thing we showed you is how you can take it to the next level, and you could customize it with Copilot Studio. And which, by the way, let me just show you a couple of other quick things. So if you start to dive into it, this is where you can also create plugins and extend the Copilot to other data sources. And you can also create actions, which are different than the actions that existed before in Power Virtual Agent. And so let me make sure that I do have a chance to point that out. So we use this to extend Microsoft 365 out to our other external systems, data sources, and of course we use it to optimize workflow, right? That's like the main use case of the Copilot Studio.
And they already have trained plugins for almost all the apps, like Salesforce and
connectors.
They're already built, ready to go, which really can help you extend it really quickly. And
to be fair, they don't have a lot of them. Like they do have a lot, but they have a lot of the common Microsoft ones. And this is why I'm going to say it this way, because it's a good segue into the next topic, is why you might want to use Azure OpenAI, right? Because the fact of the matter is those connectors are amazing. Microsoft 365 is amazing. We can do custom, amazing. But the reality is that there's still going to be organizations, especially at the enterprise level, where for multiple reasons they're going to need to take generative AI even up to another level. Here's a classic example. As a matter of fact, we're a perfect example of this, our product and what we did. Essentially what we did is we took 10 years worth of work that we did at DH across the administration and operations side of hospitals and hospital systems, and we put something called semantic kernel, which is Microsoft's open source framework for Copilot. We put that on top of the 10 years of work that we did, and that's how our physician experience Copilot was born. But the issue that we had, and by the way, we build 100% on Microsoft. So we even tell people, if you want to use Microsoft 365 Copilot and connect to our plugins to run the hospital administration, you can do that. Or you can use our own Copilot that we have as well. So why would you want to do that? Well, for example, we work in healthcare. Not every hospital is a Microsoft shop. Healthcare can be in the US can be divided primarily between Epic and Cerner. And if you're Epic, you're a Microsoft shop. And if you're Cerner, you're an Oracle shop. And then you've got a bunch of smaller players that represent about 40% of the market. So we're trying to build product. Again, our mission is save babies and improve global health outcomes. We don't care if you use Microsoft. We don't care if you use Oracle. Like, we just want to save babies. So what that means is we need to be agnostic. We need to make sure that our Copilot can do more than just connect through connectors. We need to build a mission critical, enterprise enabled and integrated with line of business applications and be as open and as agnostic as we can. But we still want to deliver the value of the cloud vendor of choice. So if you're using Microsoft, we want you to take the most you can from Microsoft 365, 365 Copilot. We want to complement all that stuff regardless of your cloud. And so that's why you might use what's called Azure OpenAI services, which is essentially your own private instance of OpenAI. And then as you can see here, this is actually our architecture document for our Copilot. We have our different data stores, and then, and essentially we lay Copilot on top of it. And so what does that look like in the real world? Well, I'll show you, because I have my environment open always, all the time. So this is our physician experience Copilot that we built. And again, the idea here is that essentially what we do, I don't want to get into what our product does, but we're on the administration operations side of healthcare. This is something that physicians would use as well as, but it's also used heavily by leadership, including chief medical officers, et cetera. And I don't want to go into the whys or whatnot, but just give you enough for what you need to know for the demo. And so as we started to look at using this Copilot infrastructure to take our product to the next level, this is essentially what we came up with. And by the way, I should add now that if you're a company that's thinking about building product, which by the way, if you're not, then you should start thinking this way as quickly as possible. I'm shocked that a lot of Microsoft partners aren't doing this already. But my point is that the best path in building Copilot product is to take something that you already do well and then 10x it with Copilot. That's my personal opinion. So we were already doing really well in the healthcare space and healthcare operations and administration. We had already been accepted into Microsoft startups to turn that into a cloud-enabled product. And when Copilot came out, we said, oh, we can use this to take that stuff that's already cool and make it 10 times better and literally leapfrog every one of our competitors. And so that I would give you that advice. So you can see what's really cool is now we use a little trick that Microsoft does where we have pre-built prompts, or like to give people ideas of how to get started, if you will. And you can see here, we have prompts even that'll go into PeopleSoft HR information, and we can start to talk to the Copilot about the data, right? And so you can see I asked it to evaluate the roles and responsibility of James Young and their impact on RVUs. RVUs are a technical term used in finance. On HR, I don't want to get into it, and then we say, get the PeopleSoft HR. So then we drill down, right? We're like, okay, get the PeopleSoft HR information. And so it comes back and it gives me the PeopleSoft. And then I can tell this used a different call and it went out to a different data set because it appended the section name. That's only relevant when it's pulling from PeopleSoft.
And these are all using the API plugins, right? Through the APIs. So
yeah, this is all 100% code. Well, we create our own plugins in Visual Studio, and then those are deployed and can be that we consume them from our Copilot interface. So there's multiple tiers. I'm sorry it's so complex, but our plugins and all that are in our middle tier, our web API tier. This that you're looking at is the Node.js app. This is the front end tier, if you will. The back end is the LLM and the data sources. That's the best way to think about it. And so, yeah,
but,
and we do that by design.
Yeah, it's completely custom front to back.
Yeah, we do it by design because it's mostly because we want to make Microsoft healthcare team happy and Microsoft happy. Like we want the Microsoft salespeople to be able to, we want them to know that it's okay if people want to use Microsoft 365 Copilot with our platform, that we have plugins. They're going to have to get Copilot Studio. They're going to have to make a custom Copilot and, point it to our plugins, etc. But it's a brilliant model. I would suggest for those architects listening on the phone and by the way, these are services we can help Microsoft partners with, like creating product, that type of stuff, but product development. And so anyway, with that said, one of the things I really like is we're actually following in Microsoft's footsteps. And if you look at, for example, in PowerPoint and different places, they've started to add these prompt suggestions. And so you select it and then you just type in, you can say, get the PeopleSoft information for a provider. And so we're just excited about this. This is a new feature that we just added on recently. And again, we got it from Microsoft. We're literally trying to keep our interface as much as possible to complement what people are used to in the Microsoft experience. And so what you're looking at here is the highest level of customization. So this is for people that, you're in a large enterprise and you need to figure out a corporate strategy for Copilot. Maybe if you're a large hospital, realistically, they're going to be using many large language models and many Copilots, and different ones will have different use cases. What we decided to do, the best way to think about it in the Microsoft world is Epic has signed a deal with Microsoft, so OpenAI is enabled in the electronic health record. Microsoft purchased a company called Nuance about 2 to 3 years ago, a healthcare company that does transcription. And they have published a new Copilot called DAX Copilot. And that DAX Copilot from Nuance is going to be what all the clinical stuff on the Microsoft side, but they're doing it through a sub company of theirs. I think maybe even for legal reasons or protection, if you will, because that's the clinical stuff. And so far, what the healthcare team really likes about our Copilot is we complement the DAX Copilot because we focus on the operations and the administration side at the enterprise level. And so that's another way to think about why you might need to use OpenAI as an architect, a product builder, an enterprise engineer, right? To not only build stuff like this, but let's say I wanted to infuse this technology into my existing apps. Maybe they're not even Microsoft apps. Like you want to reach out to Oracle and do something. You want to talk to SAP and do something. I want to monitor my SAP sales, and when they fall below a threshold, I want an agent to start doing prompts and sending emails to people, for example, right? Like that's the stuff that you're going to have and that's why when people ask me, is this a bad time to be a developer? I tell them, no, it's like one of the best times ever. Like, do not worry about because we've seen this before.
Yeah.
I tell people this. Remember the punch card programmers? Those people were all supposedly put out of jobs when we invented the CPU, 30 years ago. And I can promise you, it was nothing short of spectacular. All those people got great jobs, and millions and millions and millions of other people did. So with that, I'll close. I'll thank everybody for your time today, and turn it back to you, Lance.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, so we can see how AI is going to just revolutionize everything. So, are there any questions? Do we have any questions? Feel free to unmute if you have any questions. Okay, all right. No questions we have. Again, we will have this available. Okay, there we go. Thank you again, Paul, for that. Here are all my links to everything that I have. Again, ask Office Pro about my AI 900 bootcamp that we're going to be doing coming up soon. We'll get some dates together if you want to learn the basics. You can also ask me about your journey to AI Copilot. Paul and I are available. There's his email address down here. Again, thank you to Office Pro for sponsoring this. And if there's nothing else, I think we're done.